Jung-hee is a new South Korean movie which has a hell of a lot of potential, but yet I was left disappointed. Let's talk about why. Hey guys, I'm Karl. Welcome to my movie film show. Feel free to subscribe down below if you would like to, but today we're here to talk about Netflix's most recent South Korean sci-fi movie, Jung-hee. The movie is directed by Yeon Sang-ho, who directed Train to Busan and Hellbound. Set in 2194, Earth is uninhabitable, and most mankind lives in city-sized colonies in space. A war is broken out between these colonies, and a scientist is tasked with bringing the war to an end. She creates an all-powerful AI super soldier with the mind and memories of her late mother, who was something of a super soldier herself, but of course it won't go right. Something is wrong, it never quite works out, and they can't figure out why. And that's very much what the trailer promises. When you look at the trailer, the little snippet you see on Netflix, you see some of the sci-fi aspects, you see some of the action aspects, and the movie very much changes into something else, and we'll get into that. Now, you could be forgiven for right at the start of the movie thinking there's going to be all action, because there's a lot of action starts. A woman wakes up, she starts fighting off these robots. It's really cool. And some of the visuals are spectacular. But very quickly, there's a good twist that comes along. I was fully expecting something like RoboCop, where the guy just gets shot apart and then she has to be rebuilt as a robot. That's not quite what happened. Instead, she was killed, but her mind was saved in this dystopian future. And then they used her mind to create replica minds they could put into super soldiers. Within the movie, the main character is terminally ill. And at one point, she's given the option of saving her own brain using this technology that they have, where they can transfer someone's consciousness into a other brain and put it into a robot. You get three options. Option A, you get to keep all your human rights. Option B, you get to keep some of your human rights. You can't marry or adopt or things like that. And option C, the cheaper option, basically you sign over your entire human rights to a company. They can replicate you, they can use you for whatever they want. They can use your own personal image to create dolls or toys or put you in movies or make you a super soldier. You're basically signing your life away to someone else. But hey, immortality, right? So that's something. The film really caught my attention when I was scrolling through Netflix one day because it looks really cool in the little snippets you see. It's a really ambitious project. It really feels with this movie that they just explored the wrong story. That there was multiple stories to tell here, but they very much focus on the action at the beginning. That part looks really cool, really interesting, a really new take on it. Instead, they focus on a more minor part of the story and ultimately tried to make it daughter trying to save her mother type of situation. The main problem the movie has is that the pacing is all over the place. The movie's only an hour and a half long. It felt like a 2-hour movie, if not a 2.5-hour movie. The beginning is electric, as I mentioned many times now. The middle, it very much starts to slow down. And as I was watching it, I was enjoying the movie for large portions of it, but I slowly started to realize, okay, this movie's not really going anywhere. There's only like 20 minutes left. Where's it going to go? Then it tried to take a big left turn towards the end of the movie, change it into something else altogether again, and the pace goes up a little bit and then also drops down a little bit, and ultimately it just leaves you an unsatisfying feeling. And perhaps that's the reason why it has a 50% critic score on Rotten Tomatoes. It promised so much, it delivered so little. Even to just jump into some spoilers about the movie, right near the end of the movie, the mother obviously doesn't realize it's her daughter that's the scientist because she doesn't speak to her at any point. But obviously the daughter sees everything the mother is going through, and when the war is coming to an end and they're not going to need these super soldiers, the company starts exploring other avenues for using the super soldier, one of which the daughter finds out potentially could be sex dolls, which is a whole thing in itself. She walks in on one of her colleagues using a sex doll who looks like her mother, or sex robot I should say, testing it out, product testing I believe they called it. I'm sure someone has to do that. It was quite a weird and yet interesting turn that the movie took. And all of a sudden the daughter realizes she has to save her mother's conscience. And then it tries to make you feel sympathy for the mother and sympathy for the daughter as the daughter tries to free her mother's mind from this evil corporation, I guess. But the only problem is, like I mentioned, they gave us those options earlier in the movie of A, B, and C. C being you sign over your rights. They clearly saying that you're no longer an individual, you're no longer a person, you're just whatever. They just someone they can replicate. And therefore, the person she's trying to save, the robot she's trying to save ultimately, is no longer her mother. And that massively takes away from the emotional connection audiences would have within the scene. There's this part towards the end of the movie where the mother robot is fighting off 3 other robots. But that's just the thing, it's robots versus robots. So you don't really feel too much worry for the mother because she could just have her brain put into another robot. There's no real jeopardy there. And then right at the end, when the daughter is ultimately trying to save the mother and telling her to go and live her life and be free and everything, she's ultimately freeing just a copy perhaps copy 4 million of her mother, not actually saving her mother. So even that emotional connection isn't there either. Maybe that's why the movie doesn't quite sit right. It's such a shame because the movie had so much going for it. Overall, the main performances of the movie were quite engaging. They were really good. I found myself interested in the movie all the way through, but slowly starting to figure out not really much is happening here. In my research after watching the movie, I found out this was actually Kang Soo-yeon, the lead actress within the movie. It was her last ever movie. Unfortunately, she passed away since making this movie, but she gives a hell of a good performance in it, even though I wasn't enamored with the story. So ultimately, we get down to a rating out of 10, like always here on Karl's Movie Film Show. For whatever movie we're reviewing this week, it's Jung-hee, and for me, I would give it a 6 out of 10. It's not the worst movie I've seen. I've certainly seen far worse movies. It was a very interesting concept, unique if nothing else, and I'm always a big fan of trying new things in sci-fi. It just ultimately feels like a build to a letdown. But you know what movie wasn't a letdown? Top Gun Maverick. My review for it is right over here to check out. If you've already seen that review, there's another review to check out right over here. If you've already checked that out, you can always subscribe because that's a pretty damn awesome thing to do.